Wholeness and Balance Vibration to everyone. Today is Sunday, April 24th, and it is such a pleasure to be here with you today and to be able to broadcast today's message. I wanted to let everyone know now that this show is actually going to span out to possibly 3 hours, but it will continue later on tonight on the ISIS Wisdom radio show. Many people are already familiar with that station. And if not, you can just pay attention to the site, which is www.resistance2010.com, and get the proper information there to link. I wanted to also say that my co-host is in transition today, so she will not be co-hosting me on the show today, but we will be enjoying her in 2 weeks. And also, we just wanted to send all of our energy to everyone so that we can continue to cycle our energy. Today is a really big show for all of us because it's really my point in time in uncovering every single thing that's going on in the universe. And many people would claim to be able to talk about such things, but I know 100% that the Resistance has done an exemplary job at spanning out into all levels of high information to discover what's happening here. I wanted to first cite the members of the Resistance as people of this world that look into things in detail. We use two formats, which is our intuition and data. We feel that that's activating on one level both sides of our body, which is a straight line and a curve. This allows us to be able to look in things, not to be partial or biased, but to get the whole story, not pieces. So what has obviously happened because we traffic information is that many information is passed back and forth, and we've looked over a lot of things, but we also have the cipher. And then I'm just going to jump right in this on you guys. Basically, what's happening is that the language itself, all languages are considered cables, or what's called a cabal. It's C-A-B-L-E. C-A-B-E-L or A-L, a cabal. And what happens in a cabal, which is very similar to the word Kabbalah, and for those who know that that's about evoking energies and about using the power of language to bring forth energy. What we've discovered is that there is actually a Kabbalistic meaning to all languages, and if you actually ever discover the complete meaning of one language, then you get one ring. And for many of us, we're very far along on the path, and so there's no use in turning back. If people want to get the preliminary information on what's happening, they could just log onto the site and start from the first post, and they'll work your way from there. And if you're dedicated to your soul, then you'll finish and you'll rise triumphant. But for those who can wait no longer because we have a situation going on, then I will explain to them what's happening. Now, the language was Sanskrit. If you remember in the alien interview, the alien said that the last time that it visited this planet, the language that was really being used was Sanskrit. Just so happens that I discovered that the root to that word is sans, that's S-A-N-S, and then it's a crypt, meaning there's something that's holding a container, a coffin, a sarcophagus of sand. And I had discovered a while ago also that sans or Sa is Satan. And this word in the Sumerian means seed. It's just S-A or A-S. It's the most used word in the English language. But as I looked at sans in just one turn of the cipher, it spelled NASA. And I realized all at that moment that the Nazis had went to the moon. And just like on that video I was showing that they were controlling the air, because that's why they call themselves Aryans. And that was their big rush in trying to build those ships, because they built those ships and then they cloaked those ships so you cannot see them. So when your third eye opens, the sky is full of ships. So what happens is that the Sanskrit, or the Satan script, was a language that was not the oldest language, but is purported now to be the oldest language. But people have arrived from the other side of the grave to tell us that Tamil was even before Sanskrit. And people have arrived from beyond the grave to even tell us more. So I'll tell you this. spirituality, all it ever was and all it ever will be was the communication between man, woman, and the spirits. That's it. There was no books, there was no anything, because the spirits were charged with the obligation, and that's why they said the Satan and then the angels and all of these people were told to bow down to man, but not so Iblis, not so Satan. He didn't do it. So I'm going to map out to you why he didn't do it and where he's at and what he's doing now. But all the other spirits were like, yeah, we'll help man because we have regrets. Because when we get on this side, if there's things that we didn't accomplish on this side, then we have to attempt to get the message to our lineage and our family lines to do it so we can finally rest. Or else we always have regrets and there's something that needs to be done. So then people were asking, well, where are the higher beings? Where are the higher beings? It was a delegation. The higher beings, if you understand what you're physically talking about and talking about on the quantum level, I already said a higher being entering into this plane would blow this plane. It's the same thing even when a spirit tries to come and talk through a person. If the person doesn't know how to shut down certain channels and shut on certain channels, the spirit can't even use their mouth, their hands, and so mainly the spirits have been communicating with people's minds. And that's where we arrive at right now, is that there's been a heavy spirit communication, not only with documentation about what is taking place on our plane. Now, I've only watched multiple individuals that should know what I'm going to explain today not say it. So it means either they're going to become another one of those spirits just whining on the other side, realizing that you only have just this time. Time is now. It's all right happening now. To really assist and do what you need to do with the truth and to help the people that are pushing the truth. Or sit there and try to communicate with another dense, droid-out, clone-like population on spirituality, because that'll all be left. That's what will be left when we get on the other side. And that's the only thing that was ever guaranteed to us. Death. So, since most people don't understand that after death comes dreaming, they live this particular life like it's the last thing they got. And then there's another perpetuator that gives you all the things to dumb out in this reality. And it's now gotten to the point where it's actually doing it in an invisible way, which means the radiation problem that we're dealing with right now that many people are briefed on completely, the radiation problem that now guarantees that within the next 10 years, all of us will be living with some type of tumor or problem if we do not crack into the higher levels of the advanced technology that can reverse our planet and to get us out of the trap of time, of vortex. If we don't get the knowledge, we're all done. So this is what they got from me. What they'll have continuously until I'm done is I'll tell every single secret that ever existed on this planet to free this planet from this planet, exactly. Because that's how they have it, turning itself, eating itself, and consuming itself. Now, who was it? Basically what I discovered, because remember, I was very devout in Gnosticism, and I went all the way with the Holy Ghost, Shekinah, hallelujah, everything. Because I had no desire to be up there like the pastor. I wanted to be the prophet. And then from that level, I said, well, where's the power? And they said, the power's in the Holy Ghost, son. This is the Pentecost. You have to tarry for the Holy Ghost. So that's what I did. Why? Because I'm the one searching for God. What everyone else is doing, I've seen an array of it. But I had already approached situations in my life where I had already came to a full determination that if the species did not figure out what was going to happen after it died, then it was going to actually cause a death within itself, a schism within its own reality, because it would fear a certain point, so it would block its flow. And then you would end up stuck somewhere in time. And that's what happened to Earth. We dream of the future. It's not any ability to me to dream the future. I've seen your futures. My ability needs to graduate to change the future. And sure does yours. So, what I also wanted to say is that our media DJ, Pablo, Mr. Spirit Matter, who's been very, very on work. I mean, just producing phenomenal work, especially with his art. He's on live stream, so if you want to tap into that live stream widget, Actually, no, you just got to go live on the widget. He'll be able to show you some pictures and things of this nature to give you a visual on what I'm going to be talking about. And remember, we're going to be continuing this later on tonight as most people are raising the dead today with their Easter holiday, and we're attempting to actually alleviate the whole situation. But now it's up to you. So, the rings. So this ring lore was very deep. Like the elves contain a ring, and the elves, these were the preliminary beings that were much more advanced that lived on this planet, and they were here. So when the seed that turns, it's saying the seed that turns, when it fell out of the sky like beginning of Kanye's Runaway video, there was Lucifer, which is a break off of Satan, landing into the virgin sea foam and sprouting forth all of what looked like snakes, but were really larvae that were ready to spawn and get into every single thing that lived, mainly inside of the planet. The largest one burrowed inside the planet and lives in a location that is in your sea. In Africa, there are men that are adept enough to, when they walk on the sea and it opens up, and then they go down into cities that are super advanced. The things that are being introduced in our society are definitely obsolete there, but we're seen there first and then introduced into our reality. This is known as Satan's domain. Now, there's beings that are in league with each other, and they generally can be seen by having a trident or a pitchfork because it symbolizes several things. Not only the fleur de lis, not only the Trinity, not only the three arrows, it symbolizes several things to them. So even the devil has his trident, Poseidon has his trident, the Dorje rod's a trident. So there's tridents everywhere, and these beings are very advanced. Now, in a world of very advanced beings, the thing that people don't really understand these days is how to bring the solution of how to deal with a very advanced being. Like, they keep coming up with all of these lies, people. Like, I've studied everything, and every single path I see is clipped off. I see, well, yeah, you can't, that's not complete, because most of the time any path doesn't work with the body. It only works with the mind, the new path that we have going on right now, the new age. And what happens is that if you don't turn on the body, the mind cannot turn on. You may think sometimes an ego think you're activated, but the fact is that if your pH and everything is not straight, then you're not activated because it's about Kim. Now, Kim means black. So what happened was that in Egypt they said, well, no, the name was Kim and Kim means black. And they said, oh, no, okay, that'll bring too much light to that there was black people there, so you could run that the actual Nubian clip, that there was black people there, and they were doing all the things, but it was in Lower Egypt, as we're calling it now, or Nubia, where they left it desolated, and they at least left the other one there as a token of their because by the fourth generation, Upper Egypt had already been taken over by the Assyrians, and they were pissed off because the pyramid was just there, and then everyone else moved into the closer into the Nubia because that was where the seed really was anyway of life. So what ends up happening here is this. We have a chance to either return to our original power and essence, or we get obliterated and then pop out in another world that really, honestly, the way they're constructing these matrices these days, you may not even remember that this even happened and that you were a part of something like this. This part of the region in the galaxy is controlled by slavers. They have lords that control all of the deposits. They control all of the passageways, as you see in the book of the Ninth Passageway, which is the book of the Terra Papers. So what happens is that in this passageway in particular, you understand you're in so deep in enemy lines, whether they captured you because you were an exotic being, whether you were a super warrior and they knew they had to put you into something that was going to let you use yourself against yourself. Whatever your story is, human, you're here. And I'm going to show everyone not only how you get in, but how you get out. Because their symbol is so the symbol was, I pulled it up by the deeper version of the Necronomicon, has their actual symbol, which goes under the symbol of R, A-R. Because remember, the more you shorten the letters, the more you get the next offshoot of you get the next offshoot in delegation when you add a letter. So as you get closer to the A, the next one was AR. What AR is literally responsible for doing, the symbol, was the pentagram with the bottom open. When they mark someone, they mark them with the pentagram complete, because we already discovered the pentagram is 72 degrees times 5 to 360 degrees. It's a perfect circle. It's actually something to hold something in a circular cycle. And then you go psycho. They call them cyclones. They are lords of the cycles. They invented time and how to spiral beings into vortexes. Now listen, a womb still is a place that holds light and seed. It has vacuumed that generally from everything around it so that it can generally explode it back into all there really is. The explosion is about to take place. The explosion actually took place for me 3 years ago, and I was aware of another being that moved in immediately, but were still operatives that were in a position of a triangle, meaning that there was one larger one in the front, and then there was two in the back. They looked to be reptilian only because of their brow, but if you just saw them passing, you would be like, that's just a really big white guy. So I started to also discover that many of the NFL players, Nephilim, which is NFL, were also reptilians, because in the barbershop I was at, because we were still doing it big, most of the big people were there. So I was watching them, but when I started to be able to see, as they say on They Live, he can see, I was noticing that they were too. Then, so I went on this crazy escapade of proving the serpent was in control of the world. And that's when I wrote The Code to the Matrix, before I ever even knew who David Icke was. But what happened was I realized that the hatred that was coming out of me was because I was also a serpent. And that's what the trick was with the Old Testament. They were first going to tell you to hate something that you actually were a part of, at least. Because if you're a fish, you still have scales. And they know humans as fish. That's why the people they call the fishers of men, they're here to catch fish. But again, the fish and reptile both have scales, so the bridge was the amphibian. So that's the gap between the Latin Americans and the Aztecs and the Incas and all of them. They were the ones that were created as the one, they have to finish pushing this all the way through. That was the command given to them. So what happens is that, again, I cite the resistance on the real responsibility here. Generally, like in some other type of session, I think we would just sit back and we would debate upon this. But the fact of the matter is there's no time for that because of what I've actually discovered now. So what we actually have to do is we have to come together in this way. Because half of the show is going to be spent about talking about the problem, and then half of the show is going to be spent about talking about the solution and some type of mixture of that. What literally needs to happen is that this is how it works. We set up this website, and what this website does is it allows all of the people who say they are somebody and say they know something to come onto a panel as a council. Then all the rest of the people can see them, they're live, see who shows up. Then everyone gets a certain period of time to address a question that we know is very relevant to be answered right now about the status of our planet. And then according to their solution, the people vote on what solution they think will make things happen. Then we'll get these smart people that they think they're smart, and we'll let you see exactly how they don't even really have an idea what the hell is going on because they're under the spell. And the only way to break the spell was actually to get one of the rings, to learn the language that you were under the spell of. And that caused no amounts of torment. You just don't understand. It's the sacrifice. Because after you start to understand what's really happening, you probably disappear like that Creed guy. So what happens is this. There is a biochemical salt. The covenants were made by the salt because the salt is everything that controls our body. The biochemical salts, which are on the site now, actually allow you to be able to put your body into balance. That way you never come unbalanced. Because every time the cosmos moves and the planet comes in for influence, then a person changes. They change right in front of you. I've been witnessing people change right in front of me. Like, I look them right in the eye even to try to stare deep into their planet, and they're just lost, attacking me as if I'm the problem. But this is because there's some type of virus within the system. And we've already identified that, V, which is 6, are us. They're telling you who they are. So the Roman numeral 6 is the papacy. So what happened is that basically their God that they're having everyone worship, which is a ghost, as Brother Basil said, the dead can only live with substance from the living. It's just as clear as that. So what happens is that these ghosts and their ghost spells, these Merovingian vampires from Dagobah's Empire of Dead Vikings and the rest of the cursed spirits. Now let me explain to you how this works according to lineage, especially for people to get it very clear on what I'm saying about race. It's important that even if you do have a gene or a frequency or ancestor inside you that wants to do something negative, that you overpower that with the gene or the ancestor that you have or have learned from, to balance that out and to not do that. That's your responsibility, because when this thing is all over, and it will be very soon, and a new one will start, everything that you did right here will determine where you're at there. So most people are like, well, we know we're going to continue. This is how you come into the next life, not just completely at a disadvantage. Because you see, what happens if you leave here and you don't do anything about your soul or anything like that, you just go in the next world disadvantaged. So then you wonder why people are in this world disadvantaged. Meaning that why someone's laying on the curb asleep, and then he's bleeding and nobody's helping him, and he's pussing, and then nobody's helping him, and then dude rides by in the Bentley and then splashes him with the curb, on the curb, and then even laughs like Ricky Ricardo, and you're wondering, well, what kind of world am I living in? Well, wake up. The universe is hostile. It's so impersonal. I guess that's Tool. That's what he's saying. But they're saying that because they know. And you know too, but something is wrong with your mind where you're even taking in information and not even really reacting according to what you're hearing. It's like TV, you're watching it and then you're like, okay, I'm glad that wasn't me. And then you're off to work. This is because you're out of balance with the biochemical salts. When your body is asking for something, like I need some weed, man, I need a drink, man, I need to go out, I got to go to the club. I need some sugar. These are all different things in your body that there's an actual deficiency on. Like things like the Candida virus cause the body to crave sugar and wheat so that it could keep the worms fed. So the idea is not even the persons, it's the Candida. They like candy, as we were laughing about. So the fact is that it was a biological warfare. Like, say, chemtrails, what are they doing? I mean, do you want me to give you a list? The fact is that how do we stop chemtrail? That was where everyone was getting a little hazy, like, I don't know. So I decided, well, I'm just going to push the red button. Because of my status and ability and rank, etc., I have command to push the red button. The red button is give everyone the red pill, as they say on the Matrix, which is backwards. So I have to give everyone the ability to activate themselves and how to do that. And then whatever you turn into after that, if you end up turning into the problem, then you'll see me face to face. If you end up turning into the solution, glorious. Please keep confirming your progress, because that's all that's going to happen. Because then what happened is, and I love to skip around because everyone knows my style. What they did was, once they made this external Christ, Constantine finished it off. So we know it was Neo. He's originally a Reaver. That's someone, as they say, what's his name, Reeves? Yeah, Reeves. Okay, so yeah, he's a Reaver, okay? So what happens is that in Constantine, they show that there's people trapped on this weird realm, even the ones that commit suicide. And everyone's like, yo, what happens after one commits suicide? Well, what do you think? They're on the realm with the rest of the idiots that did not say something while they were here. And then they're too weak to even go to the other side or ask to the other side or bow down to something or pray to something or sacrifice something or do something to see if you can get a clear message. And then once one gets a clear message, they're too deluded to actually even go from there and try to go get a message from something else to confirm it, what you received, so that you can try it. Like I say, well, it's a clinical trial. I have tried like 4 or 5 gods before I figure out what the hell they're really saying. So that's all they were saying. Hell, H-E-L, to matter of fact, it's a Norse saga thing. It's where Golem comes from. And then we start from there. But then they say, well, Golem is even smart now. There's a picture of Golem, actually, I was going to put a picture up of the Kabbalist evoking the Golem from the other side. He's a little pissed off. But the thing is here is that, so now that we understand all this stuff is going on, then, man, we have the perfect opportunity to jet out of here. Okay, so how does one do that? Basically, the resistance has already been set up to instruct you as such, but I will instruct you directly. What happens is that in the body there's a fire, and they extinguished that out of you a long time ago. And so that's what literally happens when you read something and it needs for you to react upon it. But you kind of just fade out because you're like, well, what can I really do? You yell then. Who cares? If you hear something that you really are with, you go and find a way to keep it going. So what happens is that in the fire, because the fire was extinguished, in the root chakra, not only did not a person have the fire, which is dangerous within itself, if the fire was even extinguished, that's even more dangerous. You're extreme disadvantage. So these elements such as the Ayurvedic chulin, the gene builder, which these are available on the site, the monatomic gold. The cocktail was 2 monatomic gold, 1 chulin, and 2 gene builders. And if you can get a hold of the Ladki Shalajit, which I can definitely get you in touch with, then at that point you don't go to sleep, basically. Like it's a Freddy Krueger movie running around here. Don't go to sleep. It's not mean that you can't lay down and close your eyes. It means don't ever just think things are okay around here, homie. Like stuff is just cool. It's not like that. And it's going to be judged individually, meaning that wherever you go next is on you. So I'm trying to help you. So people need to get that also clear when they email me and they talk to me all crazy and they blackball me and they do all of that. Just understand, if you want to sit down and talk to me, I can show it and spread it all before you and bury you in books and show you in essence the energy where it's all at now. But I need everyone to assist the resistance now. I'm literally myself on the lam. I'm going from place to place. There's no funding here. I know everyone's been contemplating what's happening, but I need you to react because just based on what the lady said alone, not even with me, on the left corner of the resistance, the video up top, Fukushima situation, we have something to actually deal with. Now, you can ask yourself how you're going to deal with it, but you understand that, man, you could send me. I don't care. I've already done enough now. People know what I've done and what I've written and what I've said and where I'm at. I've done enough now to risk me. So it's just like this. You know how in politics you're supposed to vote for the candidate, and this candidate gets up there and says, "I'll represent you. I'll represent you to the people and show them. I'll represent you in Congress and show them what you really mean. Well, I'll represent you, and I won't do it in the way they wage their situation, meaning that how they wage war. We'll do it a different way." We have the ability and we have the knowledge. It's all here. The only thing that we were really doing was gathering the people together. We were showing them what wholeness meant and how it was so much more different than peace. And then that was like crazy because you saw people kept accepting and kept saying and kept doing things that they already knew was wrong. It was a psychosis. So that's when I backed off of it. And that's why I thank Lennon for that. I thank Leonard for being able to allow me to back off of the situation for a moment so that I can wax strong and come back with the deeper knowledge about, well, who is really black? First of all, man, being black has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It means you know about the colorless. Black means the absence of color. This means you found the prima materia. This means you've actually found the element in which everything comes from, the panacea. You've discovered the Holy Grail, my good friend. Welcome to the next level. That's what was here and available on this particular dimension. Like, okay, so the planet itself, they tell you it broke off from another piece of the planet. But if you understand the word high means it's named after the word Hydra. So when you break this off from any type of planet, it's going to grow back eventually within time to what it originally was. So what do? They will attempt to explode the earth again to break off another fragment to start a new earth of everyone confused because that earth is just a small piece of another one. And then when you tap into the other one, you get more information. Like when people tap into the moon, because the moon was a part of this planet, they get more information. So when they erected Apollo before everyone as the Antichrist, when Jesus, the external Jesus you're seeing, the pictures you're seeing are of Apollo, they say they sent the Apollo shuttle to the moon. Also, and then when you look at the actual hierarchy of the Chaldean demigods, which we actually have a hold of, Apollo is sitting up there on the top on the throne. And when I was like 2 months ago when I was looking at that, I just browsed through it because I was like, oh, the Greeks are crazy. They're sitting on the throne. And now today I say, oh my goodness, Apollo, wait a minute, that's Paul, that's the apostle. These are all the same language. It's apostolic. Now, just like I maxed out on that knowledge, in all areas I was maxing out on knowledge, and then that's when they knew I knew. And everyone that's been just a little tuning into me lately has been seeing me say that they knew I knew. The reality literally started to change around me to where it was when people were always talking about in the beginning, how does he know all of this stuff? How do we know that it's not the Illuminati? Blah, 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 blah. Because we weren't really talking about anything that could really do anything because we were still just getting updated. We were talking about stuff that was happening to 2,000 years ago. But then this was it. This is the Holy Grail. The Christ is internal. It's to raise the Kundalini fluid to Golgotha, or the place of the skulls, and to be able to cycle it back down. And then from that point, you'll be able to tread upon snakes and scorpions, and it'll have no effect. It really won't. Take a look at Dynamo Jack on YouTube. He's the truth. No one can deny that. So if nobody's not teaching that kind of knowledge, and then we're running around a world where it's accessible, and then all of a sudden out comes a memo from the world, the earth, our mother, hey, I'm dying. Lose your hunger. Give up what you can to help. And let's save it. Your hunger should change. This is what they were saying. If you get a call from your mother and about your mother they say your mother's dead. If you're hungry at that point, you lose your appetite immediately. Right now, we have to lose the appetite for selfishness. We have to lose the appetite for just sitting around. I can't hold it anymore. Meaning I can't sit back and watch what happens here in this world and then not say nothing because I'm not going to be on the other side like, oh man, let me talk to my daughter and see if she can tell them. Because we're trapped. And if you don't think you'll be trapped there, then why are you trapped here? That's why they say that's the power of now, to understand where you are. So it was this R. Let's talk about it. This arc. Since the 360-degree cycle it traps the person in because the celestial body moves to block the gate. What the alchemy allowed you to do is to actually stay on this balance to where your heart could be weighed against a feather, like you didn't have any problem, like now that you just pass right through it. That's why they started creating all these electromagnetic fields and all these different things to keep people blocked in. Like, because what happened in the beginning of the Bible, because there's a war going on between two different gods, what it's saying is, curse ye to the ground. You shall not ascend the third heaven. So what this means, my children, is that because you can't even get no rocket fuel. If you go get rocket fuel, they'll... Yes, this is Mandate 3561, Patriot Act 212 revision. You can't, sir, you get your hands behind your back. You can't have explosives. Like, what are you doing? You can't get off the ground. So that way, anyone that's ever up there is with them. And so this is what happened. The reason why there was never really anyone saying something about this is because anyone that ever discovered it only did it with the sponsorship of the person that was already trying to either manipulate them or keep them from, or just use them in the arena because they were just getting smart. No, not me. I'm going to tell everything. So what happens is that, and there was never any support, by the way, just very little. It's getting, like I said, I need the help. What happens here is this. When, let's see, where, it's from every single angle they were bombarding us. The Saturn alien connection. Basically, what this is really about is that, okay, this hexagon, this box, this cube, what really happened is this thing is sitting sitting inside of the center of the earth, trapped in by a pentagram. It's actually, they say, is right beneath the Rennes le Chateau, down into the catacomb, deep, deep, deep. You'll see the head of John. Now, who is John? Their god is named Ion, okay, Ion, John. And then they just take that on, the J and stuff off and just say on so that you don't ever know the real identity of the God. And that's why so many movies, there's either two gods, John or David. That's all they want to show you because those are two sons. But not all of the sons. If they want to say that Jesus is the only son, he's the only begotten son, he's the only son. Wait a minute, this is the biggest contradiction. He's the only begotten son, but we're all children of God. If you can actually not look at that and see that, whoa, veil. You're in evil. Leviathan, those priests, they have you. How do you get out? So I'm showing you. You run to your local homeopathic store or just log on to the Resistance and click on the link, get you the biochemical salts. Then you run your birth date and your birth time. Then you see where your node is weak, meaning that there's a 1 weak node, meaning the sign that governs you is the salt that you're most deficient of. So that's how they work it. Whatever you need the most, they make sure you don't get. Right? That's how it's been. So this is how we remove it. But you don't work from just the outside in. You work from the inside out. And that's how we're rolling. That's how we're going to take this thing. And so it's 22 minutes left on the switchboard. There's a bunch of calls coming in. I'm not sure what's going on in the chat box, but everyone can definitely tell how I feel about it. So I'm just going to take this moment for just a brief moment to get some water and to just regroup on what it was I was going to tell y'all about, because this wasn't even it. Okay, Resistance, we're ready to go. Now, okay, so these archives, I was looking at my list now so I could get to what I was attempting to focus on today. Remember, this is like, I still got, I think, 2 hours or 1 hour later on, so I'm just now getting regrouped because it's all flooding in. There's like so many things talking, but they're all saying the same thing. That's how you confirm when you can look in the fractal. I can look in the plan and tell when it came from Venus, and I can look at the flora and the fauna and see most of it came from Venus. It's like, it's a simple thing. And then you just got to figure out, well, who's feeding you? And what are they feeding you for? Like, let's talk. That's what I believe was ultimately the problem was, if something said it was the God of the Lord, it just means it says it's over you, then you should probably want to have a conversation with it. And this is like the first conversation I think I ever had with the people like 3 years ago with something like this. If you say this is your God, then you should know, and this is the one you love, you should know everything about him. You should know its favorite color. You should at least know its name. And you should know where it came from, all of that. And if you don't, you're doomed. Because it means you're under the protection or control or something of something that doesn't want you to know. So whether you're in the garden and everything is really great or whether you're actually in hell, it still behooves you to find out. So what I've done is I went and found out because this was important to me. I was never doing this so that people could know that Sevan's in doing the Resistance. And that's why it took 1.5 years for everyone to even see my face. Besides those 2 pictures where they say, he never looks at the camera, he must be practicing magic. Well, I thought we were all kind of practicing magic. I thought we were magical beings. But, I guess it's not okay for some people to do it. And that's where it was all going with Apollonius. That because of them seeing the power and like, it's almost like dealing with a person that's way too greedy. The moment that they see you, the only thing they can think about is like, how can I make money off of that? And then it all goes to hell from there because that's all it really was. That's what it was the alchemy. Okay, so let me explain alchemy. The symbol of the dollar sign itself is a straight line in the curve. And then when it goes into its deeper meanings, it goes into the Saturn is actually twined around the tree. The tree is Earth. Then it talks about this word interest because that's the only big cost of money. It's not like we can't have transfer coins and tokens to let us know over large distances how much we really have on one end so someone can honor that. That's not a problem. It's interest, interset. That's all that word really says, just like the word enhance or, entrance means to get into something, you have to be in a trance. Come on. I mean, how slow do they think we really are going to continue to be? Skipping to what the lady said on the video, she said that the SAT scores had dropped 12% from the children because of the radiation poisoning that they were being exposed to. So, conclusion means in a couple of years we'll all be stupid. We definitely won't know what the hell's going on because these were cowards. It was the cowardly lion. He's a lion serpent. He had no reason to tell us. He was just going to put us to sleep. He wasn't going to face us on the battlefield for the great day. Apollonius of Tyana was famous because he wrote the Revelations. And he was being channeled that book by God knows what. It's like these people have they look like the people from I Am Number 4. They don't have any respect for the human species. So if you do, because I do, and I'm doing what I'm going to do, and I'm going to keep doing. If you do, then I suggest you wake up. Because if you don't, if you make no gesture, watch what happens. Now, you know like I know, and this is there's another level of this whole coming together. Just somebody has to kick it off. This coming together also equates to this. What we do is we get people. It becomes like a domino effect. If you have a person like, let's say, Jay-Z, we know what he's doing, but there's guys that once their biochemical sauce turn on, they can knock that thing down. And then you're dealing with him. If he makes a decision to turn around, he actually brings up all the people that he ever held down, because these guys are the great weights. See, what happens is that they're the heavyweights. They're the ones that do the most horror. So that way, it's just a few of them that end up messing us all up. That's how the whole cycle is structured, but it's really more like weights, balances, and scales, grammatons, as they say, grams and tons, ounces, OZs, Oz. It's all about measurements. That's, how you keep the numbers and everything in place so that way you can calculate when there's going to be a problem and you can neutralize it before it even happens. You have the ability to do this, and these idiots have been doing it for the whole world, which would let you know how silly they are and how dumb they would have to make you, basically. If you would to look at to even do something like this, obviously would have an effect over a prolonged period of time, not in your advantage. So to perpetuate something like that, you got to be really dumb. And then they got the people that are running around them just dumber. So it's Dumb and Dumber. As I watched your boy Jim Carrey get initiated into the Sirius star system because he's Canine. Canaan, Baal. They're the lords of eating Canaanites. You see what I mean? They're the kings. They carry the Ankhs. Ankhkain. Or, Y is the I. So the thing is that I looked at it all. But then there was another thing that was driving me was like, but this is like, honestly, man, if you figure this one out, man, just imagine what would be next. Like you would really, really expand. And so I set my mind to doing that because, man, I'll tell you, everyone to know now, I never graduated high school. I turned the paperwork in and they told me I was too young to graduate. I had done it all on homeschool. And they said, come back next year. And I was 16. There was no next year for me. We were moving around so much, I never went back. So if someone's telling me you got to be a nuclear physicist, to what? Compartmentalize? Well, we need our nuclear physicists now. And like I say, once again, there are many smart people that have already discovered this, and on another level, too, under the microscope. The predatory nature of certain pathogens, and they've even named them properly, but it's like something missing in there. They need that fire because they've been extinguished. And because the fire, it lets you work consistently, like Bruce Lee said. You work consistently to deliver. You got to deliver. You have to work something consistently. Then you can see the progress when you do something like that. But if you keep stopping, if the will of your mind is not, if you don't have the ring, meaning you don't understand what you're saying and what these words mean, then your will is all messed up. You're not a lord of the time. You're not a time lord. And so your dreams start to become messed up. Now my dreams are fully animated. Like I'm so far out there. It's just amazing. I know that all of this could not be an invention of my mind. It's obviously I'm into someone else's hive mind and everyone else's hive mind, and all of the experiences that are ever available play themselves out in a way in which I would even be able to understand them. And then it's about being able to interpret it back into this reality to allow you to know what you need to do. So that part has already been done. I'm telling people what they get to do. You get to become, in your segment of time, one of the most influential individuals to take the total consciousness of the galaxy to another level. Ring. And then you can just sit back there and you'll look at the ring for a moment, and then you'll realize that, man, all of what happened was just like, that's a ring right there, and then you'll see that ring. And now let's talk about this ring a little bit. It's like, well, what is he talking about, a ring? When it first starts, like when the person first starts in their first incubation, they look like a little wafer ring. And then from there, the person starts to develop. And so in Tron, the disc that they're giving everyone, the magnetic disc, they say, I got to get a hold of the disc. Clue's like, I got to get a hold of the disc. Or Q. Or Quetzalcoatl, he's like, I got to get a hold of the disc. So then once I get the disc, then I can do my own thing. That's once I get all the memories, once I get all of a person's aura, once I get all of everything, then I can move them out of the way. And unfortunately, my good people, that's what's about to happen. We got to prevent it. The reason why I'm acting like this now is because I've faced the most treacherous betrayals in my life in a fractal. And then when I saw that fractal, I looked upon the universe and I saw the same thing was happening because I was in tune with that. And it's just this. If someone gives you something, you're supposed to give them something back to keep the energy going. And then what happens when one person doesn't do that, the whole cycle gets all messed up. It gets clogged. And I watched the deeper levels of the chemistry show that it is at times the small balance, the small salt, just a little bit of that fluoridated iodine salt that they're selling in the store, leaveneth the whole load, meaning that it can change the whole diameter or state of mind. And so what literally happens from here is that we stop that, and we're ready and willing to do everything that we can do to adjust ourselves properly to do that, like we're doing that now. And this is just another level, a higher level, a rise and a calling to consciousness completely to say, okay, I know everyone here is really smart. They've done all their work enough. But do they know that the archons are really called bears? And then they know that the bear is Ursa Major, and there's and there's Tha, and that's pretty much Saturn. That's Sauron somewhere in there. And then California is like California, and that California has the bear as their flag, but the bear is really the strongest form of a wolf. So the wolf is actually stronger than the bear? And this could be like a campfire tale being told by your grandma, but it could really mean something. So when you see those African people's story and they're talking about the animals and things, and then you're looking at the story like it's just all mumbo-jumbo, when they're telling you, well, look, the bear is crossing into the lion's territory. There's going to be a problem. And then the kids back there laughing, but later on they get it. I'm asking everyone here to get it. Get what your lineage and your bloodline is saying to you. They're on the other side saying, don't follow the improper path that you already know is improper for yourself. Strengthen yourself. They say to get rid of desire, sometimes you must fulfill that desire. Those desires come from your imbalance. Someone's playing on you, meaning that they're looking at your weakness. That's what I was trying to point out before. You're at extreme disadvantage when something else can see your aura and you can't see their aura, because they can see where you're strong at and where you're weak, and so they know exactly what point to tap you at. And that's what's important. It becomes that kind of thinking that allows you to get more into what's happening here. But again, the fire. Let's not forget, Satan was the lord of the Baals. They called him Baal. okay? And he was the Lord of this hell, the red area. It's supposed to burneth all iniquity. So this means if you can get the fire going, it'll burn up all your iniquity, and you'll start to rise. And then once you rise, that's when it starts to happen. This is happening. This is what it was. This is what they were protecting. So I feel like personally, because I can deliver that to you, is the greatest thing that I can ever do in my existence. I will continue to do that in more ways than I'm doing it now. Like, you got to realize I'm just on the air. There's people here that are listening, but this is not the world, but it can be. Because we are actually in possession of something that all desire, to be free, truly. Not free, who's also the Egyptian god Phre, Phre, not that one, but free indeed. So I'm going to take some of these calls in the switchboard just so I can definitely allow people to speak their mind if they need to speak something about this or they need to ask me a question about something. I'm going to first start with the callers that have their hand up, which is by pressing the number 1 on your telephone. And I'm going to start with the caller, your last 4 digits are 3227. When I open the line, you'll be on the air. And caller, for 3227, you are on the air.
How you doing, Brother Sevan? This is
doing
Reginald Grant. Yeah, I have a question. I'm in a relationship right now with a young lady who was part of a sorority, and she did a lot of rituals and things of that nature, and I kind of can sense that it's something like it has some type of hold on her because she wants to be in the know and be on the path that I'm on, and she sees how it's benefited me greatly, but it's like it's some type of hold on her, and I can't explain it, but I can sense it and I can see it in her eyes, and I was kind of wondering, could you kind of give me an insight as to what goes on when they do those rituals and get into these sororities and things of that nature?
For sure, brother. Basically, just to compress it, any ritual is really to put a etheric cord onto an individual so it becomes like a pipeline or a pipe into the person. And what happens is in this, because there's a lot of people, and like I was just talking about before, they have ancestry and lineage that's also been involved in things that they feel from the other side, too. It's like somebody just yearning to they go to Scotland and like, yo, why do I feel like I want to go to Scotland? Where's that coming from? And because of the colonization and things of that nature. But this doesn't mean that we give up on the whole thing and say, well, this person is unclean, this person is a Gentile, this person can't be fixed. That's where these real spiritual people came into play because they could solve these type of things. Now, I'll tell you, what generally happens in this, because every person is their own person, the decisions they make, if one is conned to do something, then they still are held accountable for that because it's their decision. But the one way that one completely breaks bindings is by turning against whatever they were actually doing. And the only way to turn against what you're doing is to actually fight it. Like basically you're saying, like me, the first time I figured out what was going on with Christianity, I didn't just back off into the pew and be like, okay, let me just ease up out of here. And then I'm just going to like, man, forget church. No, I was like, okay, obviously me convincing people to go to Jesus is going to have some type of effect on my soul since I understand that there actually is a soul because I went all the way. So I need to actually stop this from happening to other people. So you tell her she needs to research the Boule and the control that the Boule has on all sororities, especially any black sororities. Then you tell her to research the archons and why the women there call themselves arcusas. Then you tell her to research why a woman is stronger than man. She's a fourth-dimensional being. So what could these arcusas be doing? The other thing is that because Jay-Z and many of these different factions are involved in this, then what is going on and how much will this cost the soul of our lineage? So that'll allow us to be able to think twice of whether we're going to side with someone or band with them. Because what happens is that's how the betrayal took place, my brother. How it really took place on all ends. It happened it happened to the Polish. It happened to the Indian. It happened to different people where when you help someone get to another level and they promised you all of this. This is the story of the United States. They promised that we would have a flourishing society that would be so advanced. We eventually reached space and all this, and they sold everyone this idea of that. But then they didn't deliver. So it's almost like, man, are you kidding me? I gave you the light bulb, man. I gave you the wheel. I was in those sarcophaguses like all night transcribing that. And some people were like, well, how do some people that know a lot of spiritual knowledge, what were they doing in the last life? Spiritual knowledge and they got caught up into one of these religions and they just happened to escape, meaning just happen to figure out a new body to reincarnate in because of something else. And it's like a run, though. It's like you're on the run. Like I'm right now on the run. Okay, the spiritual connection that is established on the other side, because when you basically phase into that world, whatever you've been doing here and you've agreed to, and that's when the person's death generally comes, is when they do for a prolonged period one particular thing until the auric field and the frequency and everything confirms this is what they're going to do. And then from that point, that's when the decay and the judgments and the death and the things set in so that they can move you into the other plane and start to work with you from there with the overlords and archons that are responsible, because these people have astral travel, they have astral ability. They just sit and watch. They're in abuse, because that is the thing with Saturn. That's the thing why the God, like Bezel was talking about, that's the thing why the God in the Bible is attempting to hurt and kill his children and things like that, and that's supposed to be the solution to the problem, because that's all they want to get them to believe in, so that when they get in the next world, that they can do that to them, because that's what the Saturnalian cult is all about. It's about abusing innocence, and it's only 2 minutes left. So the thing is, brother, just to tell you, there are people, and you tell her, there are people that get caught up in things because of their innocence, and they're thinking that something's going to happen great out of this, but the last straw is for that person to actually turn away from that, and to actually turn against that, because that's the full confirmation inside themselves. So I'm gonna go ahead and take you off the line, brother, but I'm sure that got enough for you in there. I wanted to let everyone know that, it's 2 minutes remaining. I'm definitely going to be on the Isis Wisdom radio show. She's a host. She's an excellent host. So she's going to be able to really pump the deeper knowledge out of me by asking the right questions, because that's really what it's become now. You engage me. Anything you want to know, I can tell you, and I'm available for you. I need you now to be available for me. Wholeness.